The late afternoon sun streamed through the towering windows of the family's Oakland estate, gilding the shelves of leather-bound volumes and the stern oil portraits that lined the study walls. The long oak table gleamed in the glow, its surface scattered with neatly stacked financial reports that looked more like corporate boardroom material than family paperwork. My parents sat at the head composed but heavy with intent, while my siblings flanked them like lieutenants awaiting orders. I took the far end seat dressed in my usual sweater and jeans, deliberately understated amid their parade of designer suits and accessories. At 28, I had chosen a different path running a nonprofit instead of pursuing high-paying corporate ambitions. My brother Michael returned recently from London, his custom-tailored suit barely creased, exuding the practiced air of someone who lived and breathed business deals. Rachel, my sister, toyed restlessly with her luxury handbag, eyes darting to the sparkling watch on her wrist, as if silently announcing her impatience. I knew well enough why I'd been summoned here. My family considered my modest income of $45,000 a year a liability. They had tolerated my career choice as a phase but believed now it was time for serious intervention. Dad cleared his throat with the weight of a judge pronouncing sentence. Before we start, I want everyone to remember this is about fiscal discipline and securing our financial future for generations. Mom nodded solemnly, fanning out spreadsheets and reports across the table. We've been reviewing yearly family support costs, and the numbers are troubling. Major changes must happen. The current arrangement is unsustainable. Michael leaned forward, radiating boardroom confidence. The data is clear. Our financial aid has ballooned. We can't keep enabling people who don't show gratitude or accountability. His eyes flicked briefly toward me, leaving no doubt who the target was. Rachel pounced next, her tone sharp despite the veneer of sibling concern. Some people need to start taking real responsibility. We can't live forever propping them up. I said nothing, resisting the urge to laugh at the irony. They assumed I was the drain, the dependent. They had no idea that their allowances passed quietly through my hands each month, disguised by my modest lifestyle. Dad pressed on, adjusting his glasses. The emergency fund is being depleted. Endless requests for rent, help, car repairs, discretionary expenses. It has to stop. This culture of reliance undermines financial independence. Mom's eyes cut directly at me. Certain members have grown too comfortable treating family money as a safety net instead of building real careers. Their accusations hung heavy in the polished air of the study, echoing like a verdict. Michael folded his hands, voice patronizing but firm. Your nonprofit work may be noble, but it isn't sustainable for someone your age. You need a proper career that funds an adult lifestyle. Rachel chimed in again, harsher this time. Constantly asking for help only stunts growth. It's enabling, not empowering. I picked at the edge of my salad plate, outwardly calm, though inside I marveled at their blindness. They had staged this intervention to cut me off, unaware they were sharpening the blade on themselves. Mom finally delivered the decree. Effective immediately, there will be no more non-emergency financial aid. No rent subsidies, no car repairs, no discretionary spending coverage. We're not your personal bank anymore. The words carried an air of finality, but my phone buzzed at that exact moment. I discreetly checked the screen, an email from Whitman Trust Management. The subject line read, "Allowance approval required." Inside were the requests: $15,000 for Michael, $12,000 for Rachel, $18,000 for Dad, and $8,000 for Mom. Each due for my authorization by 5:00 p.m. Suppressing a smile, I glanced at my family as they congratulated themselves on their newfound tough love. They sat smugly, certain they had cornered me. Dad looked directly at me. Do you have anything to say about these new financial terms? His tone carried the expectation that I would bow to their wisdom, thank them even. I tapped my screen and one by one denied every single request. Then I set the phone down deliberately. Actually, I said evenly, I think there's been some confusion about how our family finances really work. Before anyone could answer, the heavy oak door swung open. A poised woman in a sleek business suit entered, carrying a leather briefcase and an apologetic smile. "Miss Thompson," she addressed me. "I'm Patricia Williams from Whitman Trust Management. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I need your immediate signature on the quarterly trust documents." The room froze. My father rose, already assuming the interruption was for him. "You should bring those to me. I handle all trust matters for this family." Patricia looked puzzled. "I'm afraid that's a misunderstanding, Mr. Thompson. Emily has been the primary trustee and financial overseer of the family trust since her 25th birthday. All distribution decisions fall under her authority." The silence was deafening. The antique clock on the mantel ticked audibly in the stunned pause that followed. Michael's confident smirk slipped first. "That's impossible," he said weakly. "Emily runs a nonprofit. She doesn't have the expertise to manage a trust." Patricia calmly opened her briefcase and withdrew a stack of official documents. In fact, Miss Thompson earned her financial planning certification and trust administration credentials 3 years ago. She has been managing the trust portfolio with considerable success ever since. Mom's face drained of color. "What trust portfolio?" she whispered. "The Thompson Family Trust," Patricia explained, scanning her papers. "Established by your late father. Current value approximately $23.7 million. Shock rippled across the table. My siblings' eyes darted toward me, horror dawning as they realized the allowances funding their lives had not come from our parents' generosity, but from me. I spoke softly, but the weight of truth carried through the room. "The monthly deposits, you all receive the ones you just decided I don't deserve. They come from the trust, which means they come from me." Michael's chair screeched against the polished floor as he shot upright, his face flushed. "This is absurd. We would have known if something that massive existed. Why would grandfather give control to you of all people?" Patricia calmly slid a certified copy of the trust across the table. The stipulation was clear. Control passes to the youngest child upon reaching the age of 25, provided they can demonstrate both financial management skill and dedication to charitable causes. Your sister has fulfilled those requirements. Dad's hand trembled as he picked up the document, his voice cracking as he scanned the text. "It says here, Emily Thompson has had full discretionary authority for the last 3 years." I nodded, my voice even. "While you all assumed I was barely scraping by, I was overseeing investments, distributions, property maintenance, and yes, your monthly allowances. You were never supporting me. I was supporting you." A long silence settled, broken only by Michael muttering under his breath as he frantically unlocked his phone. His eyes widened in disbelief. "My client expenses, my operational costs transactions are being declined." He jabbed the screen as if pressing harder would reverse what I had already done. Rachel gasped as her own phone lit up with failed payment notifications. "My spa deposit, my shopping order. It's all bouncing back." Her polished facade cracked, panic seeping into her voice. "That," I said gently, "is exactly what happens when automatic transfers are suspended. The same lesson you all wanted me to learn." Before anyone could respond, my phone rang. The screen displayed the private banking division. I answered without leaving the table, keeping my eyes fixed on my family. "Miss Thompson," the voice said briskly, "this is David Chin from First National Private Banking. We've received confirmation of your denial for this month's family allowances. Shall we place holds on the associated accounts?" "Yes," I replied calmly. "Proceed with the holds until further notice." He confirmed the action, and I hung up. Turning back to my stunned relatives, I spoke evenly. "That was the bank confirming your accounts are now frozen." Mom's voice was barely a whisper. "Frozen allowances." Patricia, unbothered, tapped her tablet. "To be precise, Michael receives $15,000 monthly. Rachel receives $12,000. Mrs. Thompson, you receive $8,000. And Mr. Thompson, you receive $18,000. The words landed like hammer blows. Michael's jaw tightened. Rachel's hands trembled. Dad's chest heaved with outrage he could not disguise. "This is outrageous!" Dad barked, though the authority in his tone was gone. "Even if this paperwork is real, I built this wealth. I managed our finances for decades. I deserve control." I met his glare with steady calm. "You didn't build this wealth. Grandfather did. He designed the trust to pass to someone who proved both skill and compassion. My nonprofit work wasn't a failure, it was my qualification." Patricia confirmed with a small nod. "The trust requires the successor trustee to show financial training and charitable involvement. Emily met both conditions, which is why she was appointed." Michael slammed his phone on the table. "Emily, this is madness. My business depends on those distributions. Clients' deals, everything rides on it. You can't just cut me off." Rachel's mascara streaked as she tried to steady her shaking voice. "Emily, my credit cards are being declined. This isn't fair. You can't do this." Another call buzzed through on my phone. I answered, putting it on speaker. Miss Thompson said, a clear voice. "This is Jennifer Walsh from the Trust's real estate team. Should we continue covering property taxes and maintenance on the family estates?" I scanned the lavish study, the portraits, the chandeliers. "What happens if payments stop?" "Property tax defaults would begin within 60 days, followed by insurance lapses and eventual foreclosure on leveraged holdings." Patricia interjected. "To clarify this, very estate is owned by the trust. Emily has been covering all property expenses for 3 years." Mom's face turned ghostly pale. "Our home. This house belongs to the trust." "Yes," Patricia confirmed. "Without her oversight, the property would already have fallen behind on taxes." Dad's hand shook as he fumbled with his phone, whispering urgently to his accountant. I heard words like documentation succession and legal authority crackling in his panicked voice. Meanwhile, another call came through. Miss Thompson said a representative from household management, the staff payroll is due tomorrow. Shall we process payments for the housekeepers, gardeners, and maintenance crew? I studied my family's horrified faces. No. Hold all staff payments pending a budget review. The representative acknowledged, and I ended the call. Rachel lurched forward. "Emily, you can't do that. Mom depends on the staff. This house requires constant upkeep." "The same way I supposedly depended on family handouts," I countered, voice calm but sharp. "Remember what you said, time to sink or swim like every other adult." Michael's phone buzzed endlessly with incoming calls. Vendors, clients, partners discovering his accounts frozen. His once polished composure was unraveling. Finally, Dad leaned forward, his voice stripped of authority, heavy with desperation. "Emily, please, let's not do this. We're family. We can work something out." "Yes," I said softly, "we are family. And for 3 years I've been supporting you without complaint. Yet today, you tried to cut me off from support that was never yours to give." Patricia looked at me with professional approval. "Miss Thompson, under your leadership, the trust has achieved 18% annual growth. Diversified investments, sustainable distributions, steady charitable contributions. You've outperformed expectations." I folded my hands, watching as the truth finally settled in the room like a storm cloud. Sustainable, yes, but only under the assumption of respect and cooperation. That assumption may now need adjusting. The oak-paneled walls seemed to lean in, bearing silent witness as the balance of power shifted. My family, who only minutes earlier had delivered a verdict against me, now sat in stunned silence, realizing their futures rested in my hands. I let the silence stretch, savoring the reversal. The same people who had called me reckless were now realizing their very comfort depended on me. Finally, I broke it. "Here's what's happening. Monthly allowances will continue, but they will be restructured with accountability." Michael shook his head violently. "You can't just change the rules. Those distributions are mine." "They're not," I replied evenly. "They're the trust's, and I decide how they're allocated." I lifted the revised documents Patricia had prepared. "From this point forward, Dad, your allowance will be $12,000 monthly, subject to expense reporting. Mom, you'll receive 6,000 with oversight on discretionary spending. Michael and Rachel, you'll each get 8,000 reviewed quarterly. Rachel's mouth fell open. 8,000. That won't even cover my cards, my clubs, my... Then you'll need to adjust your lifestyle, I cut in, exactly as you told me to. Michael slammed his fist on the table. You're gutting me. My entire business model is built on that 15,000. Without it, I'll sink or swim, I finished for him. Your own words. Mom pressed trembling hands against the table. Emily, you're treating us like children. No, I corrected my tone, cool but resolute. I'm treating you like adults who need to relearn financial responsibility. I lived within my means while supporting all of you. Now it's your turn. Patricia slid the revised trust agreements across the table. These terms are effective immediately. All beneficiaries must sign to acknowledge the changes. Dad's face was gray with disbelief as he read through the documents. And this estate. What happens to our home under your control? I met his eyes. The estate will be maintained provided beneficiaries demonstrate respect and appreciation for the trustee. Hostile actions could trigger housing allowance reviews. A hush fell. Mom's eyes brimmed with sudden tears as she reached across the table to clutch my hand. Emily, we're sorry. We didn't know. Please don't punish us like this. I withdrew gently, shaking my head. It isn't punishment, it's structure. Exactly what you all claim to want for me. Rachel's hands trembled as she scrawled her reluctant signature on the paperwork, mascara smudging under her eyes. Michael signed with a jerk of his pen, muttering curses under his breath. Dad hesitated longest, his pride battling reality, before finally pressing his name onto the page. Mom, still whispering apologies, signed last. As Patricia gathered the completed forms, another call buzzed through my phone. I put it on speaker. Miss Thompson, this is Jennifer Walsh again. We need your direction regarding the trust's commercial properties. Should we renew the maintenance contracts and insurance coverage? I glanced at my family's ashen faces. Yes, continue maintenance, but all expenses must now be justified with proper reporting. Understood, Jennifer replied. The call ended and I looked around the room. For years, I quietly kept everything running this house, your expenses, the properties, even staff salaries. You believed it was my parents managing. In truth, it was me. And now, moving forward, it will remain me, but with terms that reflect reality. Michael shoved his chair back, pacing like a caged animal. Emily, you're destroying my reputation. Clients expect me to wine and dine them. 8,000 a month won't even cover one trip abroad. Then scale back, I said simply. Learn to build on what you actually earn, not what you drain from a trust. Rachel's voice cracked. What about my lifestyle? My friends? They'll know something's wrong when I can't keep up. Maybe they'll know what it feels like to live within limits, I replied. You'll survive. Dad leaned forward again, desperation softening his once commanding tone. Emily, I don't deny your authority, but surely you can see this is too extreme. We're not asking for luxury. Dad, I interrupted, my voice low but firm. You've lived on $18,000 a month while calling me irresponsible for surviving on $45,000 a year. You can adapt to 12. Patricia slid another folder from her briefcase. One more matter, Miss Thompson, the charitable allocation. Under your discretion, you may designate funds to philanthropy. I nodded. Yes, I've decided the trust will establish a $5 million foundation dedicated to nonprofit initiatives. That money will no longer be available for personal distribution. The words detonated like a bombshell. Rachel gasped audibly. Michael froze mid-step. Mom's hand flew to her chest. You can't, Michael shouted. That's our inheritance. It never was, I said calmly. It was grandfather's, and he left it for me to manage with integrity. That's what I'm doing. Patricia looked impressed as she noted the directive. Understood. The foundation will be created immediately. I rose from my chair, looking at each of them in turn. The family that told me, we're not your bank anymore, just discovered the truth. I am your bank, your landlord, your employer, your financial future. No one spoke. The portraits on the wall seemed to stare down at the scene, silent witnesses to a legacy rewritten in real time. Tomorrow, new allowance schedules would take effect, mandatory financial counseling would begin, and the lives they'd built on unchecked spending would shift forever. I walked toward the door, leaving them frozen in disbelief. The weight of control once theirs now rested with me, and for the first time I felt no need to hide it. That night, the estate was unnervingly quiet. Normally, evenings meant the clatter of staff preparing dinner, Michael boasting about his latest deal, Rachel chattering about boutiques, and Dad sipping brandy as if he ruled a kingdom. But now, silence reigned. I sat alone in the study, the oak table still littered with signed documents, the ink barely dry on a new reality. My phone buzzed with messages. Michael had sent 3 desperate texts in quick succession. Emily, this will ruin me. Think about the clients. Please reconsider. Rachel's was more emotional. I can't face my friends if they know. Please fix this. Dad's was curt. More command than plea. We need to speak. Urgently. I didn't reply. Instead, I walked through the halls of the estate, letting the truth settle. The chandeliers, the manicured gardens visible through tall windows, the priceless paintings, all of it maintained, because I quietly signed the checks each month. Without me, it would crumble. Without me, they would sink. By morning, the shift was unmistakable. Breakfast in the dining hall felt like a funeral procession. Michael's eyes were bloodshot, his phone buzzing incessantly with angry clients. Rachel picked at her fruit, scrolling through declined transactions on her banking app. Dad didn't touch his coffee, his jaw tight as if clenching back defeat. Finally, Mom broke the silence. Emily, we were wrong. Her voice cracked, and for the first time I saw not authority or judgment but vulnerability. We treated you like you were less because of your choices, but you were the one keeping us afloat all along. I'm sorry. Rachel set down her fork, tears threatening. I didn't mean what I said. I thought you were draining the family, not carrying it. I should have respected you. Even Michael, usually the loudest voice in the room, spoke quietly. I mocked you. I thought nonprofit work was weakness. Turns out it was your strength. Dad's eyes were glassy, though pride still chained his voice. Your grandfather always believed in doing the right thing even when it wasn't profitable. I suppose he saw that in you? I didn't. That was my mistake. Their apologies softened something inside me, but I knew words alone weren't enough. Acknowledgement matters, I said. But responsibility matters more. From now on, the trust isn't a lifeline for indulgence. It's a tool for growth and contribution. If you want it, you'll live by its rules. They nodded, each one humbled in their own way. For once, there were no protests, no accusations, no superiority, just acceptance. In the weeks that followed, the new structure took hold. Michael's lavish business trips were replaced with smaller local meetings. At first, he raged at the restriction, but eventually he learned to adapt, discovering that his clients valued results over appearances. Rachel stumbled hardest, her social circle shrinking as she downsized her lifestyle. Yet slowly she found genuine friends who stayed for her company, not her credit card. Mom struggled to manage on her reduced allowance, but surprised herself by learning how to budget. And Dad, though wounded in pride, grew quieter, less domineering, finally recognizing that control was no longer his to wield. Meanwhile, the foundation launched. The first $5 million went into projects supporting education and community programs, causes close to my heart. Seeing the trust's wealth finally directed towards something beyond self-indulgence filled me with a satisfaction I had never known. For once, our family's legacy stretched outward, not just inward. Months later, during a family dinner, Rachel looked up from her plate and said softly, "I'm proud of you, Emily." Her words carried no sarcasm, no hidden jab, just sincerity. Michael nodded in agreement. Even Dad managed a small smile, weary but genuine. I realized then that the trust had done more than redistribute money, it had reshaped us. Stripped of easy luxury, my family was forced to confront themselves, and in doing so, they found humility. As I walked through the estate that evening, the portraits of ancestors seemed less stern, as if approving. Grandfather's design had worked. He hadn't chosen the eldest or the strongest. He'd chosen the one who understood the weight of responsibility. The greatest lesson I learned was not about money, but about respect. Wealth without gratitude corrodes families. Authority without humility destroys trust. But structure, accountability, and compassion, those can rebuild even the most fractured bonds. And so for the first time in years, I didn't feel like the family outlier. I felt like the guardian my grandfather had meant me to be. If you were moved by this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below with what lesson resonated most with you.